love, peace, happiness, contentment. Virtues make our life better. Let us ponder on our virtues. Virtues for life.
Om Shanti, hello and welcome to Virtues for Life. I am Sister Denise, and this program is a conversation between different Brahma Kumaris and Kumaris from all over the world about virtues. Virtues are the foundation of our lives. A person who develops virtues, values, powers and qualities, these are the things that really show what that person is, and they define your contribution to society and to the world. The laws of spirituality have told us that personal change, personal development, is the main way to initiate global positive change. Today's program is about gratitude, and I have with me in the studio at Godlywood Studio today Margret Barron. Welcome to Virtues for Life.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Lovely to have you here. And Margret is based in the International Centre of the Brahma Kumaris at London, UK. Margret is an educator in the field of adult education, and she is a personal trainer. So you have a lot of experience with helping people to develop themselves. Could you start by perhaps defining for us, what is gratitude?
Well, you talked about the foundation of life, living, and I think gratitude is really connected with happiness. It's about that kind of joy of living. It's about, seeing the good in everything. And really, without gratitude, life becomes very mundane and dull and boring, and it's kind of the gratitude that kind of gives the sparkle to life.
Gratitude, I always think of gratitude as being thankful, counting your blessings, realizing, the glass is half full, not half empty. How does a person of gratitude, what is the feeling? How do you bring that into your life, in your personal practice?
I mean, I think that there's some really basic things to be grateful for and the opposite is we take things for granted.
Okay.
And I mean, even just the fact that we could get here, that we could walk here, that we can see each other, that we can hear each other. These are really like foundations of life to be grateful for. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you're not grateful for them until they're taken away from you.
That's
and
true.
Then you sort of wish you had been grateful for them.
Yes.
So I think, just on a daily basis, I mean, I'm sure, even the viewers out there, there's so much in their life to be just grateful for. And I think some of these basic things kind of lift us.
So why do we fail to notice the riches that we have and focus on what we haven't got?
I think it's happened a little bit because of the society we live in that is always saying, happiness is something else. Happiness is out there. Happiness is when I have more, when I accumulate, I'm going to be happy. That thing will make me happy.
That's the materialistic hypnosis, practically, you can say.
I think so, and I think it's basically, I was thinking earlier that, this world is very much geared to I want, I need, I desire. And actually those things take us away from gratitude.
Talk a little bit about this wants, needs and desires, because I think that you've been working with those in quite an interesting way.
Well, actually, I've been asking people a question, because as I do this personal development training, I've been asking people, that very simple question of what do you most want in life? And, you know, what I've uncovered, because I've asked this question to many different kinds of groups, people who are unemployed, people who are professional, people who are educators, and also in different countries of the world. And what strikes me as interesting, the answers are always the same, always the same. People basically want, good relationships, they want to feel loved, they want happiness in their life, they want to feel kind of secure. Usually wealth is on there somewhere. You know, if the less refined will say money, but wealth or prosperity, it's all on there, under there. And if I ask them the question, you know, what do you think wealth will bring you? Everyone says happiness. So through this survey that I've been doing, and probably I've asked the question, I don't know, hundreds of times now, that right across the world, basically what everyone is looking for is peace, love and happiness.
So that means completely independently of their culture, of their religion, of their race, of their social position, just the fundamental human being wants peace, love and happiness.
Definitely.
Which are very fundamental virtues or qualities of human life. Let's go back to peace, love and happiness, what you were saying.
Yes, really what I'm uncovering, also from my own personal experience of life, but also what I'm hearing from others, is that I think the greatest want is people want to feel okay. They really want, on a deep level, to feel secure, safe, and at peace with themselves, so content with themselves. So it's really linked to the real want in life is peace. And, you know, the real deep need is love. People want to be respected, people want to be loved. And usually when people talk about the unmet need, it's all around, you know, my mother didn't love me, or, you know, my husband didn't love me, or something. It's all around love. And the desires, which is the kind of wanting possessions or something to make you feel happy, or is usually, the desire is for happiness. But of course, our cultures say that it's out there. Any magazine you open, you know, any television program you watch, the advertisements come on, it's all, this will make you happy, this will make you peaceful, this will...
So really what I'm hearing from you is that materialism has actually persuaded us to become ungrateful.
Yeah, because what happens if, you know, if you ask people to, just for a minute, to not think about, you know, their needs, their wants and desires, what will they experience? They'll probably say, wow, I feel peaceful.
Okay.
You know? So it's almost like behind this kind of thinking mind that's generated by the societies that we live in, and the thinking mind always wants us to be out there.
Okay, so what's the practice for going in here from out there? Because I think that has a lot to do with what we are doing in our meditation. So how does that work for you? Well,
I think the first step is maybe observing your own mind, and being aware of what your mind's doing.
How do you observe your mind? With which eye?
Well, I guess there is part of us that is behind the mind. It's almost like we use the mind, but we've used the mind to kind of go outwards all the time. So there's part of us that's, maybe it's very connected with the two eyes. We're looking out there all the time. And what we're learning here is to use this other eye. We can call it the third eye, the eye of wisdom, the eye of truth, whatever is comfortable, to kind of almost turn that mind that's always going outwards to kind of come back inward towards the self. And as soon as you do that, because you're not thinking about all those things out there, you'll find your own peace. It's almost behind the thoughts.
But the mind is very subtle, very unconcentrated, very fluctuating. And, you know, as soon as somebody walks in the room or bangs the door or whatever, your concentration is broken. So,
it's a deep practice to kind of go sort of into that silent space behind the thinking and just be with yourself and your own peace. I mean, it's almost like the starting place is to understand that you are a peaceful being.
Yes.
Really deeply, that is who you truly are.
Do you think that developing the virtue of gratitude helps you to let go of the attraction of visual and auditory phenomena?
Definitely, and I think what gratitude does, it keeps you present in the moment, because what these other things do, the I wants, I need, the visual, the stimulation, it's all tends to give that it's all about what I can get to make me feel okay. And that means that it's something in the future, whereas the practice, when you just sit in your own peace, it's very present. And there's a happiness that comes from being peaceful. To understand that's who you are, there's a happiness that's linked to that.
Yeah, yeah. Let's go to the present moment and try to be completely present. Now, it's not easy for people to just stay in this particular second, right? Because the mind wanders off to the past and the future just like that.
Okay.
So there is, you talked about taking things for granted. So now, being in the present moment, being right here, right now, why should we do that?
Because that's the only way to live. You know, we you know, when we're living in the past, even if we're hankering after good times in the past, it's actually, in a way, disempowering our present moment. And if we're too much in the future, you know, and we're not sure what's going to happen, it kind of makes us apprehensive. So when we're in the present, we can experience the fullness of life.
Okay. Also, I believe that when we're thinking about karma, the action, the only time you can actually do something is now.
Yeah, and also do it, but also when you think of any kind of change you want to make, when can you make any change? Now. So, you know, and it's about, I think, being grateful for this moment. But as, you know, we talked about earlier, the mind's a bit like a monkey mind, and it jumps to the past, or it jumps to the future. And they say very few of us actually live in the present moment, but that's the only place to live.
Yes.
So it's kind of like a paradox.
Yes.
You know, we're not really living. But I think there's a kind of secret behind this, and I think that, and there's a secret that not so many people really know about that allows you to
tell
live.
us?
Well, I don't know actually. Let the secret out of the bag.
What
but I
is
think
the
that
secret?
there's, you know, when it's kind of the past, present, future, it's living on a kind of vertical existence, and I think that in a way, or horizontal existence, sorry, past, present, future, and the mind jumps back because it hasn't kind of got another way of being, and it's kind of this kind of present moment awareness and this stability in the presence. It needs something kind of to anchor on. Mm-hmm. And we talked about karma, and karma does anchor us in the present moment. When we're doing something, when we're focused on doing something, it anchors us in that present moment. But I think it's also about connecting to something that's really stable. And I think this is the real secret of gratitude, that when we can be connected with our true self, as we talked about that beingness of ourself, but connecting to something higher that's maybe a source of goodness, or a source that's always in a state of gratitude, then it kind of helps us stay in that moment.
If we say, everything that I have is given to me by God, then that means that the source of my gratitude is the giver, the bestower. Is that going to help me be in the present?
I think much more. I think it's because then you're grateful for the basics of life. Then what comes after is kind of additions and variety and beauty. They come, but the basics of life that are God-given, I think that is what keeps us humble, simple, and enjoying life. Because I was in this other program, I don't know if you remember it, from a song by Julie Andrews. It was like, you know, my favourite things.
Yes.
And so I did it as an exercise with this group, and they had to write down their 10 favourite things. And what everyone said at the end was, it was so good to write down that list, because what they realised afterwards, that the things that really make them happy are the really simple things of life, like having a conversation with someone. You know, in our society, we're even losing that. It's like, oh, text or email. The actual privilege of actually having a conversation with someone is...
And really being present with a person.
Absolutely.
Because the phone is ringing and something is going on.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So it was kind of, you know, just even the basic of having a nice healthy meal, or some of these things to be so grateful for. And they realised, wow, those were their top things.
Which don't cost a fortune.
No.
They say the best things in life are free. Do we take the free things for granted?
I think so, and I think probably the best thing in life is happiness, isn't it? They say happiness is the greatest nourishment. It nourishes, when you're in that experience of happiness, it nourishes your whole psyche. You know, it fuels the energy of the body. You feel light, you feel easy. But you know, you love the flowers, the trees, the sun, everything, you know?
Yes. Looking at ingratitude, you know, people care for us, they give us nice things, we take people for granted as well, and this can maybe be detrimental to our human relationships. How does gratitude work in human relationships? Well,
I think, you know, if you're grateful for the simple things in life, and especially in your family unit, and the family that I grew up in, it was very simple. There was many of us. I was one of 11, so we didn't have lots of gadgets and things, but you know, we were grateful for the little things. We were grateful that we had each other's company and that we played together. We were grateful for, you know, the food on the table. We were encouraged to be really grateful for what we had, and I think it kind of set a kind of precedence, or a principle maybe, for good relationships. You know, if one person got a game for their birthday or something, everyone played with it. And it's the same principle really wherever you're living in life. If you appreciate and are grateful for the simplicity of life, the simple basic things in life, and you're grateful for the people who are in your environment, because the gratitude also is very connected with your own learning. Because, you know, when we learn from others, and when you're grateful for, you know, the skills that they show you, or you're grateful for their virtues, or you're grateful for what you can learn from them, that is another level of gratitude that takes you kind of higher.
This, I think, is interesting, because you're bringing in a few other virtues and values here. Simplicity, of course, is one of the principal spiritual values, and it is a key that takes us away from the illusion of our dependency on material acquisitions. But also you're talking about appreciating learning as a source of happiness, discovering things you didn't know before. That's very intangible. And also the company of other people, that's very intangible, in the sense of you're really putting value on non-material things, which I think is really helpful for us to break this dependency on the material world.
I think so. I think it's like going back to what we mentioned earlier, that, you know, society kind of makes us feel that, you know, happiness is something outside ourselves, but happiness is an experience. And when you're in the company of maybe like-minded people, and you're having good conversation, maybe nice meal, very simple things, the kind of feeling that you get, the positive feeling that you get, it gets savoured as a gratitude.
Yes.
You suddenly, at the end of the evening, think, wow, that was such a lovely time, and you're grateful for it, but it was so simple, you know. And also, you know, the environment that I live in, or, you know, you mentioned that I was in the International Centre. You know, you've got people from different countries, different cultural backgrounds, different religions, and to be in that environment where you're always learning something from someone else, you know, it's like a kind of pot, and everyone's kind of putting something into that pot, and you're grateful for being in that environment where you're constantly moving up against people, and it's changing you. Because I know for myself the greatest sense of gratitude I have is to see my own change. It brings a joy in me. You know, if you're struggling for a while with, you know, something that, you know, is pulling you down, and suddenly you move through it and you get a new realization, or you get a new sense of, oh, I can do it differently, or someone shares something, you think, that's it. You know, you're just so grateful because it frees you up. And you live differently.
Freedom is a huge value, a huge virtue.
Is it written up here?
Freedom, I'm not sure.
We should add it. It's
important.
a great one.
Yeah, it is. It is. There are so many virtues.
Yeah, so many.
I think we could probably do 100 programs on 100 different virtues and still have more to go.
Yeah.
Tell me about your spiritual practice. How do you feel the spiritual practice enables you to make changes in your personal lifestyle that works with some of these values and virtues?
I don't know how I lived before, to be honest. You know, in fact, I don't think I was really living. I was like, basically, there was an equation, and that was, you know, when life was good, I felt good, and when life was bad, I felt bad, and it's not a great way to live.
So how do you live now?
And now it's almost like what spiritual practice has done is, independent of what's going on around me, I can feel okay. And I think one of the best feelings is to wake up in the morning and feeling grateful that you have this whole day ahead of you. You don't really know what's going to happen, and it's a chance to kind of live and enjoy it and learn from it and be excited by it.
So you can be more spontaneous when you have that gratitude.
Definitely, definitely.
Do you find that the acquiring, developing, nurturing, cultivating gratitude keeps you free from stress?
I think it's an important antidote to stress, and I think why? Because stress is also a lot about what's going to happen next, whereas gratitude keeps you in the moment. And I mean, I work in an office, you know, you have those timelines for projects, and, you know, the photocopier can break down just like anywhere. And if you're in the moment and you're grateful for all the things that you've got in your life, it does give you that kind of edge that, you know, you can deal with things better.
Can gratitude apply when you're dealing with really big trials and tests and challenges?
Well, we don't escape them.
Can you be grateful for a serious illness? Can you be grateful for a great loss?
Well, I personally have a kind of lifelong illness or disease I have to live with, something called celiac disease, which, you know, is challenging, especially when you live as part of a community. But I think it's like anything, you have to see the positive in it. You have to see what it's teaching you, because any of these things, it can give you a sense of self-respect. It challenges your self-respect. It also, you know, you have to work with people, you have to communicate, you have to cooperate. So I think even illness can bring out the greatness in ourselves, just like any situation. And when I look back in life, sometimes the most challenging of my situations kind of killed my ego in lots of ways, and I was now looking back, I think I'm so grateful for that, but at the time not necessarily, but in retrospect I think you're always grateful.
Yes, so let's look at the ego, because I think a lot of us struggle with that, and I think it's maybe the ego or the false ego that puts us into or convinces us that the illusions of worldliness are real and so on. Where does this ego come from?
Well, I think it's kind of has been a coping mechanism or a protection, maybe until we kind of came to this point where we had the spiritual practice and we could develop something, you know, really the goodness inside. I think maybe in some ways it gave us a sense of self, even if it was a false sense of self. It gave us a sense of who we are, because I didn't certainly know who I was. So my name and, you know, what I was doing and, you know, that I was female and all these things gave me at least a kind of persona that I could operate in the world. But it's not how I wish to operate now. But it
So
kind of was a way.
What do you think? I mean, there's going to be, I'm sure, many people out there who are sharing this conversation with us who have children and who want to be good parents. How can, you know, appreciation and gratitude and looking at the child differently, how can that help the child to grow freely from all of these constraints that materialism has put us under?
Yeah, and I think we're in a challenging, really challenging time of great demands for people. But I think even before you can even look at your child, you have, you know, you have to look at yourself really. And going back to talking about peace, love, and happiness, I think the practice that we're doing here is about going in and really understanding that's who you are.
Peace, love, and happiness is who I am.
Yeah, that's your true qualities. That's the true qualities of your being, your beingness. And of course, you know, when we look at the words human being in English, it's quite clever. I don't know in other languages, but it's human being, and it's very clear that there's two aspects here.
Yeah,
and of course
it is in a few languages. Yeah.
I think we've spent a lot of time on the kind of getting the human bit right. We've invested our thoughts, our feelings, our actions in getting the human bit right, but it's also only half the equation, and the being bit is really important too. And this is where, you know, the peace, love, and happiness reside. And in terms of with others, with children, you know, I've seen how it worked. I worked as a nanny for many years, and you know, if you see the goodness in the child, then it helps nurture it. But you know, and bring that out. But it is a challenging world because, you know, as soon as they go to school and they see what other people have and want, then, you know, they want it. So I think it's about, as a parent, you know, having kind of boundaries of maybe a certain time on things. If it's kind of, you can't say you can never have a computer, and it's not about that. It's about, you know, having value time. And I remember this one person, I was at a program, and it was a family program. And this one father said that whatever software he gave to his boy, he made sure he learned it himself so he could play with him.
That's good.
And I thought that is really investing in your children, rather than just letting them go off and do whatever they like, to do things with them. And I think children love that. They want to do things with it. Another friend says, you know, text me, on the weekend I was, you know, playing ball with my 9-year-old, and I think, you know, I really appreciate that when someone will go to the park and they will kick ball, you know, and not just let their children just sit in front of a movie all the time or something.
So, Margret, thank you very much for your very interesting insights and your wisdom. I think we also have to be grateful for the accumulated life experience that we get. Even the good things, bad things, they all add up to making us who we are. So thank you very much for coming to the program Virtues for Life, and thank you for being with us. Thank you also, those of you who are with us today. Let us ponder on gratitude. Just take a few minutes to turn within, go inside yourself and think of all the things in your life that you have to be grateful for. You can see, you can hear, you can walk around, you have all your faculties, you have food on the table, you have people in your lives who are wonderful beings. Being grateful for the small things really helps us to be the best that we can be. So thank you for being here with us today. I look forward to seeing you the next time when we will go further into more of this wonderful garden of virtues that makes up the beauty of human life. Om Shanti.